Hello, everyone. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. Thank you all for joining us today for our webinar on Empowering a Generation, Undergraduate Admissions and Financial Aid at Ashoka. My name is Himi Purkaista, and I work with the outreach team at Ashoka University. Joining me today are Marcia Prince, the Director of the Office of Admissions, and Jayati Bhatia, Assistant Director, Office of Financial Aid at Ashoka University. Together, we will be addressing some of your queries on the undergraduate admissions process and the fee waivers and science scholarships available to students. Before we begin, I would like to inform our audience that applications for round 2 of Ashoka's undergraduate program are open. The deadline to apply in round 2 is 10th January 2024. You do not have to wait for your 12th board marks or CUET to apply, and you can get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid by March of 2024. Now, without further ado, let's get started. I would request our audience to kindly type any questions they might have in the Q&A box provided on the Zoom screen. We will address them towards the end of the session. I'll hand it over to Marcia now.
Me. So good evening. What I would like to do today is, as I talk about the admissions process, and I'm assuming that all of you who are here will be a part of this cycle, part of this round, and be considering applying. So I'd like to share my screen and start talking a little bit about Ashoka, the Ashoka University undergraduate program. That's how I'll begin. And then I'll walk you through the admissions process, and then we'll talk about the application form. We'll spend a little bit of time about why we ask certain things in the application form. And post that, I'll give you some insights about how to approach this process. And then, of course, I'll hand it over to Jayati after that. Okay, so I'll share my screen, and then we can get started. Right, there we are. Oops, sorry. Okay, I think that's good. Okay. So the fact that you're here, you probably know what you're getting into, so I won't take too much time on this. But let me just draw a little bit of a picture for you. The Ashoka University academic program, right, for undergraduates, is not necessarily focusing on one discipline. So the way we look at it is it's a study of the natural sciences. So you've got physics, chemistry, biology, then you have the social sciences, and then, of course, the humanities, right? So we've got subjects like economics and psychology, computer science, mathematics, history, literature, philosophy, political science, and so on and so forth, right? And I'll talk a little bit about the subjects that we have. The aim of the university is that you come together, you explore these disciplines in an environment that is very diverse. And so that's where the admissions process comes into play, right? Because essentially what we're doing is really crafting the cohort each year, bringing in students who we think would be a good fit for Ashoka. And of course, as you probably already know, it's a fully residential program. So it's going to, so if you do get an offer of admission, then you live on campus, right? It's not a day college or a day program. So what does Ashoka actually sort of focus on, right? And let me just walk you through a little bit of what we call, the holistic education model on campus, which the admissions process draws from, okay? So our admissions process is geared toward finding students who will do well in the education program that is happening on campus. So what's happening on campus, right? What's happening in your classes? What's happening in the program itself, right? So every course that you do from your first semester onward, starts you out on a journey of really discovering yourself, discovering a particular discipline, or discovering something new. So as I talk about that, logistically, we are currently enrolling students for a 4-year program. However, under the national education policy, you can still take a degree at the end of 3 years. So we have a BA or a BSc honors in 3 or 4 years. If you're interested in research, then there is a research component that you could pursue, and then of course graduate with a BA or a BSc honors in whatever major you pick in 4 years, right? So the curriculum is such that because you can pick a range of disciplines and then of course focus on the ones that you want to major in, you are essentially designing your own curriculum. So possibly no two students have done exactly the same courses with the same professors and have the exact same transcript. So that's a very interesting part about Ashoka, because based on what your interests are, you may end up doing some electives, some special courses, different things that you may really like, which somebody else may not do, even if they're doing the same major as you are doing, okay? So some of the terms that you may have heard are multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary, and these are terms that we use quite a bit in Ashoka. Essentially, this means that you have the opportunity to explore a range of subjects. By disciplines, we mean fields of study. So you have the opportunity to explore a range of subjects, a range of disciplines, and yet pick the ones that you really want to focus on. And interdisciplinary means that you will get to see how these subjects and these disciplines actually interact with each other. So they're not working in isolation, or you're not learning anything in isolation, right? You may love computer science and that's what you want to study, but you'll see that something that you studied in economics is going to help you in your computer science, right? Something that you've done in psychology is going to aid you to do, and be more innovative or more creative in your computer science field. So similarly in other fields as well. So what we're saying is that in today's day and world, you're not learning anything in isolation. You're not signing up for one course or one program and only doing subjects from that program, because that may not be helpful for you to navigate the world that we're in today, or problem solve in any sense, right? So given this background, what happens really in your course, during the course of your education, is that there is a focus in all your courses, in all your classes, of critical thinking, right? So academic reading, writing, and research. What does this mean really is that you will be taught how to think and not just given content to memorize, right? So there's no memory, there's no rote learning, no writing of, most of your courses don't have exams as well. You're writing papers, you're thinking, you're reading things that interest you, you're allowing yourself to explore, and then you're bringing those things together in papers and allowing your own views and your voice to be heard. So that really is critical thinking. You're able to critique, you're taught to critique yourself, taught to critique the writing of others, and also learn, unlearn, change your views. And so that's really the beauty of the education itself and how it's set up. So if you're thinking that I just want to get a degree, I want to do all my courses, get a degree and graduate, Ashoka is not as simple as that. The education is not as simple as just that. You will really have to engage and really put yourself into your own learning and into the program. Okay, so it really opens your mind up. And if that excites you, then I'd say that this is a great place for you. Also, most of the courses, apart from you writing your papers and you presenting your things that you have worked on individually, there's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of teamwork and group projects, and you're working with others. So you're learning the difficulties and challenges of working with others as well, apart from the joys of working with each other, right? So of course, there are going to be tough times, there are going to be difficult aspects of doing teamwork, but then that's how you learn how to collaborate with each other or think together. And sometimes different voices really bring out some great ideas. The aim then is to look around your world, look around your community, and see what are some problems that I can solve, right? They could be very small problems, or they could be ideological issues, or they could be things that you think about and you want to do something about. So they could be community focused. They could be things that impact, your society, or it could be animal welfare, right? It could be areas of interest that you have where you want to make a contribution, where you want to innovate, where you want to problem solve, and eventually, ultimately, where you are causing some sort of impact. That's sort of the transformational journey that we expect the education that you get at Ashoka to impact you and to make a difference in your own personal life, right? Because when you get into university, you're not just going there for a few days. It's a few years. And hopefully the person that goes in and the person that eventually graduates has had a very, a holistic and a positive transformational experience. Okay. So talking about transformational experience, what are we really expecting? We're expecting that you would graduate from Ashoka being a well-developed, thinking and effective communicator, right? Somebody who has grown holistically, right? Someone who's able to communicate effectively, someone who's able to think and not just parrot things that have been told to them, right? We're expecting that this education would give you a vast learning through a diverse peer group. We actively look for students from a range of spaces, range of backgrounds, so that you don't only be surrounded by people who are just like yourself, because learning is very limited when you have very similar experiences, or you're around people who have only experiences that you personally have also had. So it's good to sort of look past your own experiences, find people that you can learn from, right? And the peer group is diverse. We also expect that students would make lifelong trustworthy friendships on campus, people that would be with them for the rest of their lives, and of course experience very life-changing, defining moments during the course of their education, things that will really change the game for you, right? Maybe you thought about something, this is what you wanted to do, and then you attended this class, and the class completely changed your mind about who you were or what you wanted to do. And then you spent your time researching or working on something, or maybe your job opportunities, what you want to do in the future. So the aim really is that you go through this education process, you learn how to think, you learn how to research, you learn how to communicate, you learn how to engage with various ideas and concepts, and then you make decisions that are good for yourself, decisions that have an impact on your community, your family, and the world around you. So in light of all of this, the admissions process is designed to hopefully look for students who will do well in an environment like this, okay? So a quick overview of the undergraduate program. Like I said, it's a 4-year program, though you could leave at the end of 3 years, but it's a 4-year program essentially, BA or BSc honors, or BA, BSc honors with research. You have mandatory foundation courses that you have to do. Everybody has to do them. They are across disciplines, and I'll just show them to you very briefly. You have a major that you have to do. It could be a pure or an interdisciplinary major. You could do a minor if you want to do, or you could do electives, you could do co-curriculars, you could do internships, you could do a research project, okay? The foundation courses, if you look at foundation courses, these are the mandatory courses, and you can have a quick look. Everybody does them. Everybody looks at them. Everybody attends courses. You have to pass these courses. They're part of your learning. They really help build your base. So your foundation courses build your base of learning across disciplines. Here are the majors and minors that you can look at, that if you're, whatever major or minor that you put in your application form, you can change your mind about it later. So they're indicative. So please note that they're indicative. We're not holding you to it. However, this is the list. And as you can see, all the pure majors are all the departments we have. And then we have interdisciplinary majors where we have two majors that sort of work together, that interact with each other, and and then of course we've got minors where you can take 6 courses. If you take 4 courses, you'll get a concentration, and then there are some mandatory co-curricular courses that you are expected to take. So this is a quick overview about the actual education or the academic program at Ashoka. So let me move on very quickly. A quick look at the sciences, and as you probably know, sciences, we are really focusing on growing the science disciplines as well. And over the last few years, we have launched, chemistry. Earlier, we had physics and biology. And then, of course, from the beginning, we've always had computer science and mathematics. We've added some interdisciplinary courses such as computer science and philosophy. So interesting sort of majors that you can learn, and you can, bring your different interests together. Okay. I won't get into this much, but these are essentially based on the education policy. These are your degree requirements. In 3 years, you have to do 114 credits. In 4 years, it would be 150 credits. There would be internship aspects. There would be specific other requirements, like I said, your foundation courses that you have to do, and then the co-curricular courses that you have to do as well, right? So as you can see, sounds like a lot of work, but let me assure you that this is going to be years of learning, the best years of your life, right? You live on campus, you make friends, you study together, you work on projects, and you also put in a lot of effort in really learning and developing yourself and, learning how to think. So in light of this, the admissions calendar, so that's the program part of it, right? And that's what Ashoka has to offer. So if that interests you, let me quickly take your attention to the admissions process. So like I said, we've got 1 cycle, but we have 4 submission dates. So the first one, 22nd November, is already done. So the next one, which is upcoming, which is hopefully each one of you is looking to apply in, that is 10th January. So that's not too far away, but you have a few weeks, which is great. So 10th January is the date from this calendar that you need to keep in mind, okay? So 10th January, by the end of that day, if you're applying, please submit your application form. And it's a good thing you have a few weeks, because the application form, as I will run you through it right now, needs you to put in some time and some effort, okay? So So like I said, 1 admission cycle, multiple rounds, so 4 rounds, and it's a repetitive process. Your stage 1 is your application and assessments. So you submit your application form, and then you have mandatory Ashoka assessments, right? So if I have to go back here, your 10th Jan is your submission deadline, but 21st January is your assessments. So your application is only complete if you take your assessments. So if you're submitting your application by 10th January, 21st January is the assessment day, and so I'd request you to keep that day free so that you can take the mandatory assessments, and I'll talk a little bit more about the assessments. So you submit your application form, and then you take your mandatory assessments, and then there's a evaluation of your application and your assessments, and then there's a shortlisting that is sent out for the interview. So some students fall off there and don't go forward, but some students are shortlisted for the interview round, and they get an interview invitation. The interviews are all online, and you'll get an invitation. You have slots from which you can pick. So you pick your own slot, and then you're sent the details for a Zoom link with a Zoom link, and other details that you need to know. And then you show up on the day of your interview online, and you'll get interviewed. Okay, so the mandatory interview happens, and then there's a holistic evaluation of the candidate. So now we've got various aspects about you, and we've met you, and so the admissions committee evaluates your case and then declares a decision, right? And if you do get an offer of admission, then a financial aid form opens up, which you can apply for financial aid in order to support your fees. Okay. So very quick things for you to keep in mind. You can only submit one application form. Okay, so if you've already submitted one in round one, you cannot submit one again. You can submit only one throughout one admission cycle. So if there's a duplicate application form or any plagiarized application form, it won't be considered. We're requesting you to use a personal email address and not a school or official email address or institutional email address. You have a few weeks, so give yourself enough time, give yourself the next few weeks to actually fill your form. It takes a little bit of time, it takes a little bit of thought, and so we want to encourage you to do that. Give yourself the time you need. There are some sections on what makes your application not eligible or incomplete on the website, so please have a look. But the application form itself has a lot of information, okay? So there are all these little boxes that you can look at. So essentially, we want you to spend a little bit of time, do it properly, put in correct details, put valid attachments, check out the help boxes, and review your application before you submit it, okay? And once you submit it, like I said, take your mandatory Ashoka assessments. So these are the components of the application form. We've put a PDF document on the website as well, and you can look at it because the application form takes you from section to section, but you have to fill in details in one section to move to the other section. Okay, so I'm just going to run through this form with you to have a look of what we're asking. So we ask you about personal and family details. We ask you about your school academics, standardized tests, if you have taken any like SAT or ACT, but they're not mandatory. We ask you about what you do in your free time, your non-academic engagements, what you do, your interests, your passions, your, whatever they may be. Where are you spending your time? What are you developing in yourself apart from your academic interests? What do you like to read? Since there's a lot of reading and writing at Ashoka, we'd like to know what your reading interests are. And they could be across different genres, different disciplines. They could be, fictional, non-fictional. It doesn't matter, right? We just like to know what your comfort with reading is. We have 2 personal essays, and I'll show them to you in just a bit. Then there's a letter of recommendation, which is, again, not mandatory, but is highly recommended. Then there's a section on survey and course preference. And then, of course, there are support requirements. Should you need any support at the time of application, we will offer you that support. Should you need any support if you get an offer of admission on campus, we will offer you whatever support you need, okay? So this is broadly what the application form looks like. I don't want to get into the details too much, but what I really want you to know is the reason for asking all of these, right? There's a reason behind asking each of these sections, whether it's your personal and family details, whether it's your academic scores, right? And you can look at this in detail, but the reason is that we really want to get to know you. And the application form is really the most holistic way and comprehensive way in which we can get to know you. So if you fill your application form well, fill all parts of it, whether mandatory or non-mandatory, if you have something to say and it's relevant, please put it down, okay? Even if it may not be mandatory. So every section has very important aspects. It gives us insights about you, your background, your context. Like the academic section, we ask you scores from class 10th to 12th. If you don't have your 12th, we ask you for predicted scores. But the reason we're asking is because we want to see what your consistency of learning has been, right? What sort of rigor have you put in over the years? We really want to try and get to know you as a person, know you, your interests, your efforts as much as possible. But you have to remember that these are a bunch of people who you'll probably never see. They're sitting somewhere, we're reading, and you may not meet them. Even if you do get shortlisted for the interview, it may not be the person who read your application, right? So it's important that you put in as much information as possible in your application form. The section on non-academic engagements, there was a time when we had a lot of options for you to put, but we have brought them down to 3. We want you to prioritize, okay? Prioritize, they could be anything, interests, hobbies, internships, community service, participations, sports, dance, doesn't matter. Baking, cooking, anything that you are passionate about, that where you invest your time, your resources, your energy, your mind, your heart, whatever you're investing in, if that's something that you're passionate about and you're consistently passionate about, put it down, right? You have an option for 3, so put the top 3. Don't just put, a laundry list of things. We're not keen on that. We really are interested to know, what do you do? Maybe you just listen to a lot of music, right? And you could write about that and tell us about that. And that might be a conversation you'll have. But, or maybe you're participating in quizzes. Really doesn't matter. Really, what it is really about what you do and what matters to you and where you invest your time, because that's what we want to know. Like I mentioned, we do have a section on reading. So we ask you for 3 books. You can add 2 more. But again, to know the range of reading that you're doing, they're not just restricted to novels. We just don't want them to be your school textbooks, okay? So you could be doing academic reading, but not your school textbooks. Apart from your school textbooks, what are you engaging and what are you reading with? Okay. Moving on, we have a personal essay section. We have 2 mandatory prompts. You have to fill both. I know all of you, or many of you, might be tempted to, go online, go to ChatGPT, go to some AI, use some AI tools and come up with responses. Please note, we're keen on knowing what you think. The first prompt is designed to try and understand your personal view. We don't want a fancy answer. We don't want a fancy essay. We don't want a lot of, big words. We just want to know what you think, right? You can read the prompt yourself, but our aim is to understand your personal view, your thought process. How do you think and how do you engage, okay? The second one is more personal. It also gives you a space in the application form to talk about something that is important to you, something that has had some sort of an impact on you. We assure you of, confidentiality. So if that's something that you want to put there where you think that we should know, please go ahead. But something that has really made an impact in your life. Okay. The letter of recommendation, it's mandatory. It's not mandatory. It's highly recommended. But just to comment here, please don't get a recommendation from a friend or a family member, a relative, or an uncle. But the recommendation really should be from someone you've either worked with professionally, as in maybe an internship, or someone whom you have studied under, or a school counselor. I want to add that if you have studied with your school principal, right, or your school principal well, and you've worked with them and they know you well, please get a recommendation from them. But if your teacher, a subject teacher, your counselor knows you far better and can really add value to your application form, we would rather you get it from them. The aim is not about who writes it. The aim is that the person who writes it should be somebody who has sufficient information and knowledge and an understanding of you, okay? So please keep that in mind when you decide who you want to ask for a letter of recommendation. Then we have the survey section and course preferences. We want to know, a few things about you, about what kind of major you may be interested in pursuing at Ashoka. And there are more details on the application, on the website about the courses. So you can look at them and decide what it might be something that you've always wanted to study. It might be something that you have experience in. You've done it in class 11th and 12th, or it might be something completely new. Right? So we ask you for 3 preferences. So put them down in the order of what you think you might possibly want to explore. This is an important section. This is an important section, and I'll take a minute here. We're very keen on supporting our students with any sort of support they need from the time of admissions, right? So from the time you apply and submit your application form. But we would need to know. So we would expect. There is a support section. So if there's any way in which we can help you, whether it's sort of English language assistance, a disability, any kind, an impairment, a physical health, a mental health situation, anything where you need support. And from the time of you submitting your application form, please put it down. Please put attachments if there are any, so that we can give you the support that you need from the time admissions happens, right? The admissions process happens. Sometimes you may need additional or compensatory time. Sometimes you may need a scribe. You might need, depending on what situation you are in and what sort of support you need. So please put it down. The aim here is really for us to know so that we can support you. So if there's anything that, you have, you want to put down, please do. I just want to add as well that there is a section there on disadvantage. If there's something you want to share there, anything that has hampered your academic life, anything that has hampered your educational trajectory, please put it down there as well, and it'll just give us an idea about what concerns you might have on your mind. Okay, very quickly, and I have, I think, 2 minutes, and I'm going to go do this quick, is that the mandatory assessments, and I know this is a big one, but please don't worry. You don't have to prepare. You have to arrive. It's all online. You have to be prepared to be online for 120 minutes plus a 5-minute break in between, so 125 minutes if you have not been approved for any extra or additional time. So there's an on-the-spot essay. You get 2 prompts. You pick one, and then you write. We are thinking it's just prompts where you don't have to prepare. So you're engaging with the prompt, you're thinking, you're writing an argument, you're choosing one over the other possibly, and saying why you agree with something or not. Okay, so that's the on-the-spot essay. 30 minutes, no word limit. And the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment, 40 questions, 90 minutes. Approximately you might have 2.5 minutes a question, but maybe not. Some may take lesser time, some may take a little more. But just multiple choice questions. You have the opportunity to read the question, think about it, open your mind, engage with it, and then pick your answer. So the questions are broadly critical thinking or problem solving, right? They do have some element of mathematics concepts, mathematical concepts studied till class 10th. So, but if you have not studied math, and I think there may be 1 or 2 of you who haven't, that's okay. We would still encourage you to put that down in your form, but also attempt the assessment and attempt all other parts of it. There are a few questions on the website, so you can look at the sample questions. So no preparation really required, but presence of mind and presence while giving the assessment is very important. After this, there's a shortlisting stage. Your application forms, along with their assessments, are read, are evaluated, and then there's an interview, and then you're called for an interview online. Again, you don't really need to go anywhere. If you have access at home, or you can go to a cyber cafe, we'll just need, to be able to get on a video call and, see your face and also talk with you. To understand you, the interview is a bit personal. It's a bit academic. It's based from your application form. It could go in various directions. So, and the duration may vary. Our slots are for 45 minutes, the full slot, but we would give, anywhere around 20 minutes or more to have a full conversation, right? So be prepared, be present, and have a good conversation and enjoy it. It doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to be anxiety inducing. It's about you talking about yourself, okay? And what you have done and what you love and what you want to do and what you want to learn. So the interview is going to be focused on you. Also, maybe things around what's happening. So just to sort of understand your interests and understand you. Okay. Finally, you will get a decision. It could be any of these decisions listed here, but if you do get an offer of admission, then you can apply for financial aid. We encourage all of you to apply for aid if you think that there might be anything that comes in the way of you and joining Ashoka, and especially if it is finances. So if you get an offer of admission, we want to encourage you to apply. And then there's a whole process, and I'm going to just hand it over to Jayati, who's going to walk you through the financial aid process. And it's an important process, but it's also a process that is created to really allow anybody who gets an offer of admission the opportunity to definitely have this education and to pursue this education at Ashoka. My last point really is that if you've noticed the entire process, it's designed in such a way where we are trying to get to know you. We want to understand you because, the sort of holistic education that happens at Ashoka requires us to assess you in a holistic manner. It's not cutoff based. We're not just looking at one score or one assessment or a class 12 board exam score or a CUT score. We're looking at all of it, right? Because people learn differently. People, succeed differently, right? So we want to do our best to understand you within your unique context. And that's how we want to evaluate you and your application. And we do have a very strong affirmative action focus. We want to ensure that whoever has the potential to succeed in this education that Ashoka offers should get this opportunity, and we want to be able to support that. Having said that, I'll stop sharing my screen, and I just want to say thank you for listening. We'll do questions. We'll take some questions later, or you can put them in the Q&A box. But Himi, shall I hand this over to you now?
Sure. Thanks for that, Marcia. Thank you so much. It was a very detailed talk, and I'm sure there are many questions awaiting us. Now, over to a very important part of this webinar, which is financial aid. Financial aid is huge at Ashoka. As Marcia has said, diversity is extremely important, and how we ensure that there's diversity at the get-go is that even right now, currently, there's a whopping 47% of all students on financial aid. So handing it over to Jayanti to cover financial aid for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Himi, and hello and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the webinar today. So talking about the need-based financial aid at Ashoka University and the philosophy behind this. Well, when we started this institute and the idea, it was supposed to be and currently is the largest collective philanthropy in education in India. And about 180 donors have come in together in the last 12 years to pool in their personal resources. All of them have been aligned to one single mission and vision, which is that quality education should be accessible to all, and it should not be restricted on the basis of an individual's ability to pay. So effectively, it tries to create a level playing field for anyone who wants to study at Ashoka. We believe that once a student gets selected, they have already been through a very rigorous and a holistic admissions process. So therefore, they all should get an equal chance to succeed academically at Ashoka. However, given our mission, we do understand that financially, everyone may not be at the same level. Everyone may not be able to afford the fees, either in part or in full. So hence, we have this need-based program, which essentially looks at your ability to pay rather than your academic standing. And it tries to create a level playing field for all students so that there is no hindrance for them to join Ashoka on the basis of their ability to pay. Now, talking about the impact of this need-based program, since the beginning, if I add up all the numbers, the impact of this program has been very, very huge. Almost 4,500 and plus students have been benefited from this program, and they have either paid a part of the fees or did not pay any amount of fees. And if I think of all the resources that have been pulled in together, then almost 510 crore rupees went into funding education for these students. So, well, this is an amount which has been unheard of in our country, going only towards need-based financial aid. And therefore, if we look at any batch and any set of students who are currently studying at Ashoka across all the programs, nearly 50% of them are on some form of aid. So, which typically means that if you look at the screen right now, suppose we have a family who say that, our income is 2 lakhs per annum, and that is, say, pre-tax. So post-tax, eventually a family can end up getting almost 100% waiver on their tuition fee. Or, sometimes we see that families, they try to self-eliminate themselves by saying maybe we are earning 40 lakhs or maybe we are earning 45 lakhs and probably will not fit into the criteria of applying for financial aid. However, if you look through this grid, of course, this is an indicative grid, but for all salaried families, if say you have an income between 40 to 50 lakhs, you may end up getting a fee waiver of 25% to 50% tuition fee waiver per annum. Also, I would like to say that income is not the only criteria we look at. We also look at a range of other factors, but this is just an indication to show that please do not try to self-eliminate yourself. If you feel that you need to apply for financial aid and you need support on the fees front, we are there to support you. And as I mentioned, that students are on some form of aid, which typically means that if you apply for financial aid and if you qualify for financial aid, you can end up getting anywhere between a 25% waiver on your tuition fee to a full waiver on all the costs, which will include your tuition, residence, and meals. So, which typically means that you can end up getting a waiver of anywhere between 2 lakhs to almost 11 lakhs per annum of your fees. And on an average, we have seen that 60% of students who do qualify for financial aid, they end up getting a 4 to 5 lakh waiver per annum on their tuition fees. Now, talking about how you can apply for financial aid, well, there is one logistical step required, that you can only apply for financial aid once you have received a firm offer of admission. So once you receive your offered email, a link will be shared with you wherein you can go and apply for financial aid through that link. So please feel free to apply for financial aid because there is absolutely no cost involved in applying for financial aid, only a bit of your time is involved. And typically, we have seen that if a candidate has all the information and all the documents ready, then they can submit the financial aid form within a 1 or 2 day window. Now, I will walk you through the main sections of the financial aid form. So, the first main section is the personal and family details section. So, in this section, we ask details related to where you have studied, where you live, your contact details, your address details, your family members' details, their occupation, your sibling details, just to get a background about your family and yourself. The second main section is the earning member section and the business or professional details section. So in this section, we mainly ask about the earning details of your family members and business details if anyone in your family owns a consultancy or a business. The third main section is the wealth and expenses section. So in this section, you have to typically share the details of all the assets and investments which are owned by your family members. And if there are any expenses which your family incurs in a financial year, then you can mention those expenses in the expense section. The last section is the comment section. This is a mandatory section and it's also a very important section because this section is the chance where you can explain us that why you want to apply for financial aid. So if you feel there is any information apart from all the other details you've shared with us, which you think is important for us to know, this is your chance wherein you can explain your reason why you want to apply for financial aid and share any additional detail with us, which will be helpful in our analysis. It's very important for you to know that whatever information you will share with us, our decision will be dependent on that information. So do ensure that you disclose everything to us honestly and in a proper manner. Now, talking about some of the important points which you should keep in mind when you are filling in the financial aid form. Firstly, that you need to add these two email IDs, which is admissions@ashoka.edu.in and financialaid@ashoka.edu.in in your mailboxes, just to ensure that you do not skip any important communication or update from our side. Secondly, when you start filling in the financial aid form, sometimes you have certain queries, certain questions. So please do not wait till the last minute, or please do not wait for the form to expire and then get to us. As and when you face any queries and concerns, please feel free to reach out to us, and we will assure you that we support you in the best way possible and enable you to fill in the financial aid form within the stipulated time. Also, we would highly encourage that you involve your parents or your guardians when you are filling in the financial aid form, because the financial aid form requires a lot of financial details, which as a candidate, maybe you're not aware of. So it's important that you involve your parents and guardians. And we do understand that sometimes parents or guardians may have certain apprehensions on sharing their financial details like ITRs or bank statements or financial statements of the business. However, we would want to assure you that all the information which you share with us is kept extremely confidential and it's stored in a secured way in our Ashoka portal. And apart from the financial aid office, none other office or department at Ashoka will have access to these documents. Lastly, when you have completed your financial aid form, it's very important to click on the submit button. Do not forget to click on the submit button. And once you click on the submit button, a triggered email will be sent to your personal email ID, which will show that an acknowledgement that your form has been submitted. So once you receive that email, then be assured that your form has been submitted. Now coming to the most important question, that when can I apply for financial aid? So as Marsha also mentioned, and I also mentioned, that you can only apply for financial aid once you have received a form offer of admission. So for all students who are aiming to apply round 2, 22nd March 2024 will be the deadline when your financial aid form will open, and you will get a 5-day window to submit the financial aid form. So 27th March 2024, 5 p.m. will be your deadline to submit the financial aid form. So please ensure that you stick to these deadlines, because we are very, very stringent with our timelines. And if you have any queries, you please feel free to reach out to us. Also, we have a sample financial aid form available on our website. So we would encourage you all to please go through that sample financial aid form and start looking through the form, start collating all the documents, all the necessary information. And if you feel that you are stuck anywhere, you have certain questions related to certain documents or mandatory documents, please feel free to reach out to us. And we will be there to support you, and we can start assessing you and helping you in filling the financial aid form holistically from the very beginning. So just ensure that you go to the website once, look through a sample financial aid form, and start preparing for it. And please feel free to write to us in case you have any questions, and we assure that we'll support you in the best way possible. Now I'll hand it over to Himi for the Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Jayati, for that. That was indeed very helpful. We also have today Vineet Sabharwal, who's joined our panel. Vineet is Senior Director, Strategic Initiatives and Financial Aid at Ashoka University. Welcome, Vineet.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, everybody else.
So let's start with our first question of the day. Since we just wrapped up with financial aid, perhaps we can address a few questions from there first. There's one question that a student has asked, which says, aside from active annual income, what other factors are taken into consideration for financial aid?
Okay, so apart from the income, we look at holistic factors, which include your savings, the assets of the family, your family background, the number of liabilities or the number of loans which your family have, the number of dependents which your family have. And apart from that, if you mention anything specific to your family in the comment section, that is also considered. So income, as I mentioned earlier also, it's not the only criteria. It is, of course, one of the main criteria. But apart from that, all your savings, your investments, your liabilities, everything is taken into consideration when your financial aid form is assessed.
In fact,
Thanks.
I would also like to add, if I may, that in everything that we do at Ashoka, we value context a lot, and therefore that happens in the case of assessment of financial aid as well. So while all these numbers tell us one part of the story, we also ask you to explain or write reasons for why you need it. And over the years, we've realized that, and we believe that no two students having exactly the same family background in terms of income and assets and numbers may get the same amount of aid, because each family's context is very unique. So make sure that when you apply and when you're giving us the details specifically on income and expenses and your loans and liabilities, you also tell us a little bit about why you need the support and why your case is unique, because that will help us really make sure that we take your context into account. Because, as I said, no two families are exactly the same, even if they're earning the same amount of money.
Thanks for that, Vineet and Jayati. There's a question also on how easy it is to get financial aid. And also, I think this also is related to another question of whether if a student does not get the financial aid, if applied, then does it hamper their application, their offer letter at all, if at all?
Of course not. Like Jayati mentioned, as part of the process, you get to apply for aid only once you get a confirmed offer of admission. So it has absolutely no linkage or cause or effect with your offer. It's a completely independent process. How easy is it to get aid is a difficult question to answer, because it depends, as I said, on many factors. Jaideep spoke about a list of things that we look at. Of course, the starting point is your income. What I would recommend is that if you fall in the broad income categories that were shown to you, and this is available on our website as well. If you fall in the income brackets that are shown in our table, just apply. There is a high possibility that you'll get something. Of course, with all the other details, you may get anywhere between a 25% to a full waiver, and that will depend on all the numbers and your context. But don't hold back in applying. The chances will be very high. How much you will get is the difficult one to answer. But keep that table as a reference point and just apply, because all it takes is a few hours with your parents to put together all the information, which is typically very handy with your parents. It's the usual income tax returns, bank statements that they would be that every family keeps handy.
Thank you, Vineet. With regard to the documents as well, I believe the financial aid team often encourages students to start gathering those said documents by the time the student gets shortlisted for interview, so that you can keep everything ready, since there's a short window of time after getting your offer. Okay, there's a question on the admission side. If I apply on the evening of the deadline, will that affect anything for me?
No, you need to apply before the deadline if you want to be considered in that round. I just want to say that as long as you're not starting your application that morning and trying to submit it that evening, that would really reflect on your application form, and that may not reflect well. So if you've been working on it for a couple of weeks and you've actually put in all the details, feel free to submit it. Although I still haven't understood why we always end up submitting everything in the last minute. You could submit it that morning or the day before as well if you're ready. But if you do submit it that evening before the deadline ends, that's fine as well. It's not going to affect your candidature in any way.
Thanks, Barsha. There's another question on from a student who's taken a gap year and has opted for mathematics as an additional subject from CBSE. They say that they will be taking the mathematics board exam in 2024. Will that be eligible?
Absolutely. Yeah. As long as you have a transcript to show for that, it will be eligible. I also just want to add that for those of you who want to study disciplines such as economics or computer science, physics, economic and mathematics, of course, mathematics is a very crucial aspect of these courses. And so it would help for you to have mathematics, even though we do give you the opportunity to be part of other courses. They're very difficult courses, right? So if you don't have any mathematical base, you will really struggle to do these majors. Like economics is very quantitative. So if you don't have economics in class 11th and 12th, it'll be very difficult for you to do the mathematics courses for economics, which will enable you to then do the economics major. You need to pass those courses first to be able to do the other courses, which are, so they're not theory based. There's a lot of econometrics. So I just want to say that if you're seriously considering some of these disciplines where math is a crucial element and crucial requirement, then please ensure that you do well and you understand your basic mathematics concepts that you've learned in class 11th and 12th.
Any other prerequisites for gap year students, Barsha, that you would like to comment on? If not prerequisites, something that they can
just for gap year students. So I think just to say something for gap year students. So we like gap year students. So we encourage gap year students to apply. So a lot of students do apply to us who've taken a year off to pursue their passions, work on things that they really want to work on, explore, maybe even do a year of study somewhere, So that's completely fine. I think what would help a gap year student would be, there is a section under the class 12 which asks if you've taken a gap year between your class 12 and university. And if you have, that's a good section for you to really write what you have done. Students have done a range of things. Some students have just taken up a bunch of courses, or some students have gone and volunteered in some area and really worked with a certain community or a group. It doesn't matter what it is, right? we'd really like to know how you have used that time, right? And it could be something very personal as well, and that's okay. So it's just for us to understand. But we are very welcoming to students who've taken a gap year.
Thanks for that, Marcia. Back to financial aid. This is one question that I can straight away answer. Do we apply for financial aid after getting the offer letter or before? This is on the day that you get the offer letter itself, the same mail will have a link to start your application form. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jayanti. And then there's another question on what if parents are unofficially separated but not divorced, and only one parent is willing to pay for the student's education? This could be an important question.
Okay. So in that respect, I think we would want the details of both the parents to be shared, because what we believe that it's the primary responsibility of the parents to bear the expenses of the child's education. And then post that, if there is any gap which we can fill through financial aid, we will be willing to do that. And also you can mention this aspect in the comment section of the form about your family, that only one parent is willing to share the expenses for the education, and we will be happy to look into it. But at the end of the day, we would want you to share the details of both your parents. If both of them are working, please do share their earning details as well. And rest, be assured that we are there to support you. So we will consider your unique context also in this case, but we would want you to disclose everything clearly to us in the financial aid form. Vineet, if you would want to add something, please.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, this is exactly what I would have said. So give us details of both your parents, but also mention this context. The way we run the process, we have to rely on legal documentation. So if the separation is not yet legal, we also need to make sure that we are subject to an audit as well, and we need to report back to our donors who've given us and entrusted the money to us, and therefore we need to have a clear paper trail on why we took the decision that we took. But at the same time, like we've been saying, context is important. So we'll have a conversation with you and we'll try to understand what the situation is. And only then will we be able to take an exact call on what the final decision will be. So start by giving us as many details as possible and context of this particular situation, and then we might enter into a conversation and decide.
Right. There's another question on merit-based scholarships, perhaps with SAT scores, they said. Is there a specific allocation based on SAT scores? And then as a follow-up question to that, what is the criteria to qualify for scholarship when you don't want to be dependent on parents for education?
Okay, so firstly, talking about the SAT scholarship, well, we have a partnership with the College Board team, wherein they have a certain set criteria that your family income should be less than 8 lakhs per annum, and you should have a certain SAT score. So if you qualify for these two criteria, then you will be shortlisted for the SAT score College Board scholarship, and we will share your details with the College Board team. And then they also have a criteria of shortlisting students. So they will reach out to you, they will ask you to fill in a form and interview you, and then they will decide whether you qualify for that scholarship or not. So that's about the SAT scholarship. Now talking about the merit scholarships, so apart from the need-based financial aid, we also have merit scholarships, but those are for the sciences courses. So if you are inclined to take any of the sciences courses at Ashoka, which includes physics, chemistry, math, biology, and computer science, then there is a merit criteria which you need to fulfill and a needs criteria which you need to fulfill. So depending on your merit score and the needs criteria, if you qualify for these two, criteria, then you will be shortlisted for the merit scholarship process. Again, we will reach out to you for this. We will share a Google form with you if you have followed under this criteria. You have to fill in the Google form, and depending on your course preference, an interview will be scheduled with the respective professor, and then the professor will decide if you qualify for the scholarship or not. So yes, so apart from need-based scholarship, we do have a sciences merit and means-cum scholarship.
Thanks for that, Jayati. There's a quick question I'd like to answer. Is applied mathematics offered by the CBSE board considered equivalent to mathematics, which is required to pursue an economics major? This is a yes. Okay, so there's a question on the LOR. Is it advised to submit LORs solely in favor of the course applied or intended to apply, or to submit an LOR about the overall performance, qualifications, etc. being recommended? Also, what is the minimum number of LORs that should be submitted?
So we only take one LOR, so one letter of recommendation. And like I had already mentioned, it should be from somebody who is with whom the student or the applicant has either worked with or studied with, or studied under, or a counselor. So someone who knows them well in a professional or academic capacity. What we want on the LOR is actually written in the note that goes to the recommender. So we want a sort of holistic LOR that talks about the student. Essentially, if you look at the LOR, it should add value to your application. So there are a lot of things in the application which you tell us, right? What we're getting from the LOR is from someone who is not you, but someone who knows you. So their view should add value to what you are saying. So we want them to talk about things, that are your strengths, your academic performance, or your work, depending on what context you know them in. And maybe also areas that you could really improve on, and why coming to Ashoka would be a good fit for you, why they think. So we really want to know their view on you. We don't want them to tell us, the course doesn't really matter, right? Because you can change your mind at Ashoka. So maybe they could, maybe it's your physics professor, your teacher, faculty member, and they say that, they've seen you really explore the discipline in some way, and they have some examples for that. That's fantastic as well. So it could be academic, it could also be, but we would want it to be personal as well, because we want them to add value to our whatever information that we have on you.
Thank you, Parthia. There's a question on the academic scores. Under the Cambridge A-level program, I am pursuing 4 subjects. However, in the application portal, it shows that I have to mandatorily fill 5. So it requires us to put the grade received against that subject. And if you can please guide.
You can just put NA there. I think you can put text. So just please put NA. There's a feature on that form which doesn't allow us to, just give you mandatory 3 and then add, but we do take mandatorily 3. If you're doing 4, that's great. If you're doing 5, that's fine as well. But essentially, we need 3 A-star courses. That's what we are considering.
There's a question on, I think this question has been asked more than a couple of times, although I do know the standard answer for this, but I just wanted to throw this up. What is your historical acceptance rate for admission? And a follow-up question to that, is it crucial to apply within the first 2 rounds for better chances at admission and financial aid?
Maybe financial aid you can answer, but let me just take the second question, part 1 of that, to say that more and more it is becoming important for people to apply as soon as possible, because as we are, we still have only a limited number of spots, and it's for all courses, right? So it's not, we don't take program wise, so we take a cohort, and even if that number does go up a little bit every year, it's still limited and restricted to a number of factors due to which we have determined that number. And we can see that a lot of students who are really eager to get into university and get that done with are applying in the early 2 rounds, right? I mean, not to say that if you apply later, you won't be considered. We will go through the process, but if we do run out of seats, then we would just have to place you on a waiting list as opposed to giving you a decision. I don't think Let me just say that we're very selective in our admissions process, and it's gotten, I think it's gotten a little difficult over the years and tougher. But we continue to maintain a process which allows us to understand students in their context. So please don't worry about the ratio or the selection rate. That's of course, in retrospect, we will have that, but that's not important. What's important really is that you submit a good application. And if you get shortlisted for the interview, that you have a good experience there and you're really able to put your best foot forward, engage in that conversation, and do your best. So I don't think the numbers really matter at this point.
Thank you, Varsha. So we'll be closing the webinar for now. There's a last question which I can quickly answer, which is, are there any differences in the application process for international students compared to domestic? And there is absolutely none. It's the same process for all. I would ask our panelists if they have any last words or advice for our students who are applying in this round.
I think I would just say, in fact, in continuation to the last question and the response we gave, which is it's good to plan ahead, and if you are planning to apply for round 2, it will give you almost 5.5 months, including the offer of financial aid, for you to plan your finances and your decision. So the sooner you do it, the better, because otherwise what happens is, this is our experience over the last almost a decade since we've existed as a university. The later that you apply, the shorter window it becomes for you to take a decision, because the session starts towards the end of August. So which is one of the big reasons why we also encourage people to apply early, because you will be able to get your finances also in order, and you can plan much in advance. So planning helps in this case for sure, and which is why we give quite a large window for people to apply during the year. That will be just my recommendation.
I just want to say something right at the end. For those of you who are planning to apply, please look at the admissions as in 3 parts. There's the application, there's the assessments, but your application and assessments go together. And if you don't take your application, if you don't submit your application well, and you don't take the assessments well, that's going to be not helpful or beneficial for you. And then there's the interview stage, right? So when you're looking at it, in a way, look at the application, the assessment. If you have to prepare for the application, do it well. Prepare for the assessments, do them well, and then prepare for the interview if you're shortlisted. The idea for giving you time and talking about all of this is to prepare you for the fact that you will require time. You will require time, and we value quality. We don't want you to do a hurried job or do something just to submit your form, right? So we do value quality, because we read your application forms and we spend so much time looking at every aspect of every form. And so please do justice to that. You've got time. So I would say, similar to the financial aid form, right? Don't do it in a haphazard manner in the last minute, but take your time, fill it in. And, if you're somebody who does that, half the battle there is really just won for you, right? So we just want to encourage you to do that. And then, the rest is, we'll follow the process that we have. Okay. So yeah, all the best.
Thank you so much, Marsha, Jayati, and Vineet, for today's webinar. And thank you for joining us, the audience, for this, this evening session. One thing is that we had a lot of questions, but of course, time, there's always a time constraint. So we would encourage you to reach out to the counselors. Every applicant has a counselor assigned to them. And so we would advise and encourage, motivate everybody to reach out to all of your outreach counselors who will be helping you, who will be, hand in hand with you in your application and get your queries answered as well. So I hope you enjoyed being a part of our discussion on admissions and financial aid. We would really appreciate it if you could take a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link to the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Please note that the recording of this session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel in case you would like to share it with your friends, and do subscribe to the channel for more updates. Before we end the session, I would once again like to inform our audience that the deadline for round 2 of the undergraduate program starting next year is 10th January 2024. I would encourage students to apply now and get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid even by March of 2024. For more information, you can write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in or contact us on the numbers given on the screen. This brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much for joining us. Please take care and stay safe.